Okay, next up. So I talked about the troops, the elites. I'm not going to get to the HQs yet because the HQs are still very, very undeveloped. So I'm going to spend a moment to go through, and by a moment I mean a lot of moments, like a very long moment, to go through the fast attack. First off, this was one of the first non-general unit that I made. Aside from the Shards, the Grinders, and the No Life, this was the next unit that I made. The Shadow Strike Bike Squadrons. Initially, I kind of envisioned these as a single wheel with, it's got twin-link crystalline laser rifles, which are the same weapons the Shards have, kind of mounted on the sides, and then just kind of driving forward in these single-wheel bikes. Since then, I've seen the Doom Wheel for the Skaven, and they frickin' took my idea. So I've got to come up with a new thing for what they're going to look like. There's 3 to 9 of them in a squad. Toughness 4 to 5, 4+ save. Still ballistic skill 4. They're only really meant for shooting. 1 in every 3 in the squad can upgrade its weapons to something else. And you can join it by up to 2 no lights on Shadow Strike bikes, which are really cool. So they're pretty much just kind of a standard bike unit. Nothing particularly special about them. Alright, and then I've added, I've rearranged the force org a little bit. So I've got 3 walkers in this army. The first one here is the Surge Armored Transport. This one I think is really cool. This is actually something that hasn't really been done in 40k already. It's a open top walker, armor 11, 10, 10, strength 5. It's basically, ballistic skill 4. It's manned by a shard. Twin-linked assault rifle, which is the Assault 2 version of the normal standard gun, and 2 bolt-on crystalline assault rifles. And they're fired by the passengers. Alright, so it's got a few vehicle upgrades. The main thing that I really, really like about this that I think is so cool is that it can transport up to 8 models, and it's a walker that you can take in squads of 1 to 3. I think that's really awesome. Sorry if I'm conceited, but that's awesome. The other fast attack choice is the Onslaught Armored Grinder. The Onslaught is basically a dreadnought. Armor 12, 11, 10. Strength 5, 10. Weapon skill 4. 2, 3 attacks. So 2 attacks, 1 for 2 close combat weapons. It basically just has 2 dreadnought close combat weapons, or its 2 weapons. And you can give it a back-mounted gun, which is ballistic skill 2, so it's not amazing. But there is a blast weapon or 2 you can choose from that list. So, and the big thing with this one, hold on, I thought I had something else added in here. Scrolling, still scrolling. Okay, so, yeah, that's the Onslaught. Another cool thing about the Surge that I really like is that it has Fleet of Foot. I think that's awesome. A walker with Fleet of Foot that's also a transport that you can take in squads. It's not cheap. They're easy to kill. It can't carry a lot of guys, but I think it's just a cool idea to begin with. On to the heavy support. I've got the Pulse Armored Support Unit, or the Pulse ASU. Basically manned by Shards again, so ballistic skill 4, weapon skill 2. Armor 11, 11, 10. And actually on the Onslaught I lowered the front armor to 11. And the Pulse can come in squads of 1 to 3. Open-topped walker. It comes with one twin-link crystalline assault rifle, and it can add a second weapon. So secondary weapons it has as options are some pretty decent weapons that I've gotten here. So it doesn't seem like much just to have one crap weapon and one okay weapon. But then I was thinking like the Sentinel only has one weapon. A lot of times it's a crap weapon, so I think it'll still be pretty effective. Those are 42 points. Onto some of my favorite vehicles here that I've added. The Creep Sunken Missile Launcher. I'm going to read the description for the Creep Sunken Missile Launcher because I really like it. When the Tarnell began fighting the Imperium from beneath their cities and outposts, they quickly converted their tunneling missiles for warfare. Just like Tarnell phase blades, these missiles are surrounded by a field of cancel energy. This allows them to travel almost uninterrupted from the vast underground cities through the rock, exploding underneath enemy troops and vehicles. When the Tarnell began fighting offensive wars, they had to develop a tank to carry these missiles. The Creep fires the sunken missiles into the ground in front of them, and they arc back to the surface and detonate. So basically, they shoot these missiles through the ground, like straight into the ground, and they kind of arc down and come back up under the vehicles. So it's armor 12, 12, 10, ballistic skill 4, and it shoots a strength 8 AP3, ordnance 1 barrage, 48 inches. Basically a 48-inch earth shaker. Well, not even as good as an earth shaker. So yeah, it's got a special rule creep where it can move d6 inches and always still fire its weapon, but it can only move d6 inches. It can never move more anyway. I've also got one that I just added called the Tremor Engine, which is the creep chassis. And instead of shooting the missiles down, it just shoots a wave of energy, and it just shoots up large blast template size, difficult terrain. So you can basically try to slow down your enemy formations, and anything hit by it on that same turn takes pinning tests. How many minutes do I have left? Okay. One of the cool things, one of the things that I wanted to do from the beginning of the time that I made this army is the Undermine. The Undermine is a larger version of the dedicated Transport the Mine. Armor 14, 12, 10, ballistic skill 4. The Undermine has a cancel wave on the front, a flame template, 2 wounds on everything on 2+. And it also must select another weapon system, which are sponsored, so there's 2 of them. In addition, it can also be given a turret weapon, so it can basically have 4 weapons on it, a few vehicle upgrades, and it can transport 13 models. The cool thing about this one is its burrow rule. The Undermine uses this cancel wave to plow through solid rock, soil and rock alike, and can burrow under the battlefield, delivering firepower where it's needed most. The Undermine, any models it is carrying may deep strike, even if the mission being played does not allow for the deep striking rule to be used. When the Undermine deep strikes, roll to scatter is normal. If it would scatter within 1 inch of an enemy into impassable terrain, instead place it as close as possible where it's scattered. So basically the drop pod rule. On the turn the Undermine deep strikes, it may not move, and the models embark may not disembark. In addition, place a marker 2.5 inches directly behind the Undermine. For the rest of the game, an area the size of a large blast template around the marker counts as difficult terrain, as that is where the Undermine burrowed up from the ground. I think I might get rid of the rule where you can't disembark that turn. So basically, it's like a giant drill machine, except it shoots cancel energy out of the front to burrow through things. So it just completely vaporizes and disrupts the entire physics of everything in front of it, so it falls into a pile of nothingness and plows through from underneath and like lands right next to a bunch of enemies. It just unloads. It's basically a battle tank that can transport and deep strike in. And the last thing is the Mine Armored Transport. Armor 12, 11, 10, ballistic skill 4. It has a hull-mounted Ray of Darkness, which is basically the weaker version of the cancel, the cancel wave, and 4 bolt-on crystalline assault rifles fired by the passengers. It's a pretty straightforward vehicle. I think it can transport like 8 guys or something, or 10 guys or something like that. So there's a quick overview of the units in my army. I'm going to do another video over some of the history of the Tarnell, and that'll be it for them.